Good morning, New York. This is the Jason Buford Show. I am your host, Jason Buford. The New York Knicks are up 3-1 in the 2026 NBA Finals, which is an incredible statement for me to be saying. I still can't believe we won the game last night. Absolutely crazy. But more importantly, right now, I have my very good friend Paul Thompson here, editor-in-chief of POW Magazine, first and
That's
foremost.
me.
That is you. Also, Pitchfork, uh, you know, contributor, has a lot of amazing Pitchfork reviews that I totally love. My personal favorite, I think, is the Makami Pray for Haiti review. I think
Oh, interesting.
that's one of your best. I think that's one of your best. I think you are the quintessential mock journalist. Like, you really understand him the most and understand his music, and understand him as a person, which is not easy to do. And more importantly, I just love talking rap with you. So we are going to talk about Vince Staples.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Vince Staples. And I know this is your show, but I'm going to hijack this for a second. I want you to take me back to the beginning of you and Vince Staples. Like, what is the early impression? Were you up on him as someone orbiting on Future? Was it not until summertime '06? Like, when did you really lock in with this guy?
I obviously heard Doris,
Okay.
right? Obviously. But the first full Vince project is Summertime '06 for me. And then I had to go back to Shine Gold Shine and Hell Can Wait. So I had to go back to those things. So Summertime '06 is the first thing. And I just feel like it's the quintessential Obama era rap album in a lot of
No,
ways.
no, that's a coloring book.
Fair, yes.
Nothing gets quintessential Obama era rap ahead of Chance.
True,
We
true.
can't go there. But tell me why you feel that way about Vince, because I think I know what you're getting at, but it's interesting because the sales pitch for that album when it came out would run very counter to that. So I'm
Okay.
curious how you get there.
So, how I get there is, at the time, you have Good Kid, Mad City, you have My Crazy Life. These are day in a life, almost stream of consciousness rap records from West Coast artists talking about gang life, the anxieties surrounding gang life. And I think Vince did that with the caveat that I think Vince was talking a little bit more social justice than even Dot was, and especially YG compared to YG. Especially.
You think those guys were more socially engaged than YG? Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And so that's why I would call it a staple of Obama era rap music, right? Like, it has an awareness of social justice in a way where that felt like the norm at that time. You know, in mainstream circles. Right now, obviously, you have different scenes, Atlanta scenes that I think were much different than what the West Coast was doing at the time. And then obviously that's pre-Greedo, that's pre-Draco. But at that time, I think the norm in the West Coast felt very like, black excellence, Obama posters on the wall next to Martin Luther King, et cetera, right? And that's how I kind of view Summertime '06. But I think it's a very, very good rap record, if not great. Like, this 2 is not as good as this one. This one has, like, incredible rap songs on it. North North, which is, I still think, maybe the best pure rap song he's ever dropped.
It's better than a lot of rap songs many people we consider all-time great rappers have dropped.
Yes.
That's an
Yeah.
extraordinary performance.
Yeah.
I
That
think
third
that
verse is
it's
mesmerizing.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's really something. Yeah, I mean, so my history with Vince is I had listened to both Shine Cold Chains when they came out, but they were not like core records for me. I think they're really good. I'm just songs on both that are really captivating. I, it's funny. I've been doing this, writing about music for so long now that I don't remember who I did this interview for. But I went and met him at a studio in Hollywood, like heart of Hollywood, not one of the ones that most rappers record at. Like, I'm talking like on the Walk of Fame when he was making Summertime '06. And I remember talking to him and him saying, one of the quotes that jumps out in my mind is he said, "I hate funky worms." He like does not care about. I don't mean this pejoratively. Like he would tell you this. He does not care about the lineage of West Coast rap per se. He's not like irreverent for the sake of being so, but he's not married to a certain classicist idea of what a rap album could be. So it's really interesting that you bring up Good Kid and My Crazy Life. So Good Kid comes out at the end of 2012. And Good Kid is one of those records, like Illmatic, where there was a popular and critical uh, coalescence around those records as they were being issued. Like, people always cite Misinfo's 5 mic review of Illmatic, but in that issue of The Source, there's a feature on that album called The Making of a Classic, or The Making of a Masterpiece, one of those two. Like, it was anointed from the jump as Good Kid was. Now, everyone who was around says that the reason YG actually got off the shelf at Def Jam is that Jeezy was out in LA, heard some YG records in the club, went to his people at Def Jam and said, "What are we doing keeping this guy mummified in red tape? Let's get him out there." But that record, My Crazy Life, is also a loose concept record structured around a day in the life, home invasions, LA as this place that is fraught with gang violence, but navigable by a moral actor at its center, even if Kendrick and YG are different there. Now, both those records are overseen by Dre, Sycamore, like people who really know what they're doing in terms of putting together an LP. Vince signs to Def Jam, puts out Hell Can Wait. I don't actually know. I never asked him this. I don't know if anyone's asked him this. I don't know if he would give a straight answer. I don't know if Hell Can Wait was made as an EP or if those are just songs from the Summertime Sessions. But Summertime '06 was overseen by No ID. Yes. And No ID cares about what we consider, when I say we, I'm using the royal we, because I know you and I diverge from this a little bit, but what the culture considers great music, great auteur music, which outside of dance music is basically reduced to like literary, autobiographical, narrative, linear writing. And so I think that in the context, and that in a large sense is who Kendrick is and wants to be. Honestly, even YG's a little bit like that when he puts together albums on his own devices, to his own devices. I think it's just one trick in Vince's bag. And that does not discredit him. In fact, I think that that's a huge compliment to him. But the idea became that Vince came out with this widescreen, autobiographical, linear origin story record, and that everything else has been a departure from that. But I think No ID was like, here's a compelling thing. Why don't you do this? And I remember talking to No ID around that time. He had just been overseeing the Common albums again. He was doing the Vince album. And I remember him telling me that he brings in artists and he says, do not write right now about what you're going through right now. If you've just got a record deal, if you've just got on, if your friends are acting shady, if life's changing, stop, go back 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, 3 years, and write about that. And that's very much what Summertime '06 is. That is, there are records like Street Punks and stuff that are, and he explores this in the videos, about like the white gaze, the commercial gaze on
Lift
rap
Me
culture.
Up. Lift Me Up has the famous lyric, all these white folks chanting when I ask them where my niggas at, got me crazy, I can't get with that, right? Like that is the main one of the main bars on the first song of the tape.
Exactly. And other than that, the stories are pre-fame, pre-rap. That's like North Long Beach, that's what it is. And so people take it as like, this is the record that just like comes pouring out of Vince Staples. It's actually kind of a genre study and a good one.
Yeah, I think that, and also in fairness to Vince, I wouldn't call No ID, part of the G, like Summertime '06 is not part of the G Funk lineage, right? Like it doesn't even sound like All Eyes
No,
on
no,
Me.
no, no, no. It's like Summertime '06 is a really cool specific sound palette. It's like industrial and like cold in a way that's really interesting.
I think
I've
about
lived
the bass lines almost on the title track "Summertime," like
Oh,
like
absolutely.
those sound like they still ring in my ears. It sounds incredible, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And I've lived in Los Angeles since the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I've never lived in Long Beach, but my kid's mother lives in Long Beach. I spend a lot of time down there. It's a really interesting, fraught place that, yes, feels more defined by the ocean than anywhere in LA except for Santa Monica. Like, if you go down where most great LA rap comes from, that whole corridor, Watts, South Central, even up through Leimert Park and Fig up to downtown, that feels, especially in Watts, like impossibly landlocked. And Long Beach is so, so, so much different. And the sense that there's this collision of on Summertime '06, you have these sounds of seagulls, but there's this industrial, like foreboding feel to the production. You go down there, it's like pretty beautiful beaches with huge oil derricks, like barely 100 feet offshore. It's a really unsettling place, and I think that he is pretty zoomed in on not so much Long Beach gang politics, but the experience of being a young person involved in gangs in Long Beach. But the overall like aesthetic takeaway from the album can be generalized way beyond that. It's like a pretty definitive album about that city.
yeah. And you know what's really funny is like someone responded to for the listeners out there. I wrote a long 2,600 or something word blog about Vince and kind of my issues with his career thus far and his new album Crybaby. We'll get to all that. But something somebody said was, well, he never makes the same album in a row. Sure, but Ramona Broke My Heart, which actually is my second favorite record by him, is I think the closest one to Summertime '06.
I think it is too, although I would say that the three records that precede Crybaby are not the same, but I really group those as one movement in his catalog. Like, I think there's everything through FM, and then I think with the self titled through Ramona Park and what's the next one, Dark Times, like that, they feel in a way of a piece. And sort of what I'm locking into is he really unmoored his cadences from the squeezing the back tight things he was doing earlier in his career, which I think still work great. But he's very, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that he changed his writing process. I've never heard him talk about this, but I would not be surprised at all to learn that after FM, he started doing top line references for cadence or something more, freestyling more, filling in more. I'm not sure what's going on, but those three records felt like they were coming through a different process. And I think Crybaby feels more written.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think when I hear Crybaby, I don't hear orator, personal orator style music. I feel like more omnipresent when I hear Crybaby.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's an omnipresent style of rapping where like I'm discussing America in a kind of like less personal terms and a more abstract term.
Yeah, it's not really a first person record the same way most of his records are.
Yeah. And I
How did
think
that work for you?
I just think he's better when he's more personal and confrontational. And I think what he's done recently, and we'll get into the why, is I think he's become more of an abstract artist and more of a experimental artist, and I just don't think it works. And I think that a lot of what he decides to do is based off of what he believes people expect him to do, which is fine. Or, what, after when Big Fish Theory came out in 2017, he talked about a record label guy who said, like, well, we want you doing gangster rap because it sells. I, by the way, don't doubt that a white racist, record label
Yeah.
guy said that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I also think that in a way he has psyched himself out because of that stuff.
Yeah, I think there's an element of truth to that. I don't mean to armchair psychologize Vince, but like that tracks very cleanly to me. The irony of this, and in some ways the tragedy of this, is that I think he's such a gifted vocalist that when he says, real grimy street stuff, a lot of the times you can project onto it a real knowingness on his part. And so even his most divorced from the personal, violent lines, like there's an awareness that they're being sold on a rap record. Yes. In a way where Vince keeps making videos where people are looking at Black Angelinos in a museum exhibit. Right.
That's the Senorita video.
Yeah. Exactly. Vince is aware that that it is impossible in his music, at least. He's made it impossible, and I think this is a reasonable decision for him to make. He's made it impossible to forget that he is a Black celebrity of some stature being commercialized to audiences that are at least half white. And I think that for me, I think that actually gives him tremendous license to do whatever he wants. But if we accept your premise that he feels boxed in, that would, I think, explain some of the creative choices. I'm not saying that I think that that's necessarily what's going on, but it would make the theory track. I like a lot of Vince's personal writing. I also think he's one of the most gifted rappers ever at saying stuff like Black 32, I shoot like both Kobe's. Right. I think that he's really good and creative at, again, genre experiments.
Yeah.
And this gets into a much larger argument about, we do not, again, we do not grant Black people the license to be artistic. We do not grant the possibility that Black artists in any medium are making things that are not at their root autobiographical. Yeah. And so when Vince raps about guns or Vince raps about poverty, there is this, I don't even know if it's bad faith, but this racialized reading of it that is like, well, it's just so raw and so unmediated, and that's the truth. When he's working within a genre.
Right. I mean, one of his favorite, if I'm not mistaken, one of his favorite rappers is 50 Cent. 50 wasn't known as this autobiographical, I'm trying to compare Scarface kind of artist, right? Like, he wasn't known as that. 50 was also playing within genre tropes, right? He was playing within, actually, talked about 50 in the blog where I talked about how 50 is playing within an idea of the American male in 2003 in a lot of ways, right? Like a superhero or supervillain, whatever, place you want to put 50 in. Either you think he's a hero or a villain, right? Maybe you're a Murder fan and you think he's a villain, and he is talking about a certain type of American exceptionalism at that time, post 9/11, post Bush sending us into Iraq, post Cheney lying about weapons of mass destruction. 50 is representing that bulletproof style of American culture.
Yeah, I mean, 50 before Get Rich, he's saying, if I catch another case, I'm going to kill Giuliani.
Yeah.
And, what could be more of, a big picture archetype.
And if I'm not mistaken, Vince has said that he's a fan of Ross, who is the king of genre work within genre, right? In non-autobiographical work, quote
By
unquote,
the way,
right?
I love Pusha both personally and his work. But it's very funny that like Push's whole thing was authenticity, and then like when he went solo, he was like Ross is my guy.
Yes.
It is funny how the Ross CO stuff didn't matter. And I think the thing that gets overread by critics and historians from that era is people like to place a lot of significance on graduation outselling Curtis in on 9/11/2007. But the reality is just Kanye was huge and Curtis was not that good. And 50 stopped making great records. And
He
the really
stopped caring about making great
he
records
stopped
too.
caring about making great records
You know
too,
what I
for
mean? Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, even like "I Get Money" is the single from Curtis and the best song on Curtis, and the first line on it is about vitamin water. You know, it's just it's out the window at a certain point. But the significant thing from around that time was the Ross and 50 beef, where like the idea of an authenticity or actual authenticity ceased to matter even as the commercial value of plausible authenticity persisted. And so there is now almost a case study in rap of like when NWA was out, like there was all this through the 90s, there was so much well, of course, pathologizing all black Americans, but also pathologizing white interest in street rap as voyeuristic and fetishistic, and a lot of it was and is. But I would argue that something that we can clearly see now, especially with fork in the road examples like Ross, is that like we might want specific genre conventions, but like I don't mean to downplay like American racism and the way American racism feeds into and is in turn fed by capitalism. But it's not about like by the book authenticity. It's about the performance of it.
Yeah.
That's not one's not better than the other, but that's specifically what's being prized is the appearance of it and the performance of it. And
Yeah.
for someone like Vince who has lived through some of the most harrowing versions of that possible, of course that's off-putting.
Yeah. It is natural, I think, for him. Like, it's easy to see what he gets at when he talks in interviews about, the street life and the glorification of it. Like, I remember the Joe Budden interview at one point. He talks about, like, not even really listening to Tupac. Like, Vince is not like that. He's not Kendrick in that way. Like, Kendrick's such a hip-hop head.
He said the same thing to me as far back as 2015. He was just sort of like, he's like, my favorite rapper was like Bow Wow. Some of that is a performance, but he's not lying. Like,
he's also like, he loves Kanye. Yeah, he loves Kanye, right? Like, I think Vince is a Kanye guy. I mean, Kanye is mentioned on Blackberry Marmalade, right? Like Kanye West. I pray they all fall down. Like, he seems like a guy who's like, for a street guy, for a guy who was in the streets, he does not seem like, I listened to Tupac, or I listened to Nipsey Hussle's my peer. No, like his peers are different, right? Yeah. But I do think he's gotten to a point where I can't tell if Vince is listening to contemporary rap or not. And I just think that Crybaby went so far from, it deviated so far from the type of stuff happening in hip hop currently that it almost felt like the Lil Yachty record where he tried to do, that type of, Childish Gambino rock, almost. Like, let's start here, it's called. It kind of sounded more like the Rocky record, whereas I would rather have him try to do a Yeezus.
Sure. Well, I mean, try to do Yeezus is a little bit Big Fish theory.
Right. True. That is true.
Which to me, that's actually the one I go back to the most. Like, I wonder if I would have to listen to Summertime '06 and Big Fish back to back, but Big Fish is one I return to more. I think that one of the differences between some of these other, not Yeezus, but stuff like the Yachty record, one of the differences between those and Crybaby is that, like, insofar as we're defining this by the vocals, Crybaby is unambiguously a rap record.
Yes,
Like,
yes, yes.
there were reports from like early listening parties where it's like, oh, this is a rock LP. No, there's a lot of rock in the production. There's a lot of guitar up in the mix, a lot of electric guitar, like stuff going on. It's a rap record. There's no question about this. This is a rap record, and a lot of the production draws on that. How did you just not even trying to read it critically, not trying to psychologize Vince? How did the music, the production specifically, work for you?
Didn't work for me. I wanted
Yeah.
the bass lines to be harder. TV on the radio style, I guess, post Radiohead static for me would have felt better than what I got, which I felt was a little bit Urban Outfitters-y, if I could.
Yeah, I mean, Urban Outfitters is pretty harsh, but
That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. But I just felt like there was not a lot of edge to a lot of the production that
no, I
was
actually
listening
feel
to.
the same way, and a little bit of this comes down to just personal taste. Like I'm not a huge fan of rock from the sound palette that Vince is pulling from specifically here.
What sound palette would you say that? Because a lot of people have been talking about, he's taken from Black Keys, which I actually don't think.
That's too mean too. That's I would never put that on anybody. That's
I don't really know Black Keys music that well. I was always a White Stripes guy, so I don't really know Black Keys music.
Oh my god, I feel
You know what I mean?
so
Like,
guilty because there's a music critic. I don't know if it was Ian Cohen. It was someone. I will find out who said this and give them credit when this podcast runs. There was a music critic who, at the height of Black Keys, said, "Oh, great, the Black Keys, every critic's 15th favorite band." And at the worst points of Crybaby, I'm kind of like, this is everyone's 15th favorite rapper. Because he is undeniably, I think he's pushing himself places as a writer. I do appreciate that I understand that there's a whole narrative about this point in his career based on leaving Def Jam and all these different things. But as shorthand, major label rapper, doing a thematically ambitious record and a focused record. And I do like those swings happening.
the writing on The Running Man, I think, is strong.
Yes, I agree.
Like,
I also I really like, I find the Blackberry Marmalade video specifically a really fascinating object. And I think that the violence, for those who haven't seen the video, it depicts a mass shooting at a diner, of which Vince is one of the victims. And the filming, people have likened to first-person shooter video games, which I think is technically the closest analog, but also a bunch of these mass shooters now stream or try to stream their crimes. So there's a real-world version of it, too. And there is a dread and anxiety in that song that I think is a great reflection of the visual. But because it tracks so closely with those first-person shooter games, it feels like that other song on the album where he's talking about the corrosive power of television. There's something really interesting about the way this record feels divorced from time. Like, the debates over whether video games make kids violent maybe should be as relevant as ever, but feel like a relic of a slightly bygone era, just as TV as the main culprit eating at our brains feels very quaint at this point, even though we see what cable news does to people, especially above a certain age.
True. But
so
I mean, think about the movie Home Alone. The movie Home Alone, in a lot of ways, Hughes is saying that TV is both a protector and also both damaging your kids.
And what is that, 1990? Something
Yeah.
like that? And it feels so compellingly, it's sort of like how you watch Blue Velvet and no one can really agree what year that movie takes place.
Yeah.
And I'm just, there is something to there is, this is not to denigrate any of the more plain spoken political arguments he makes on here, but just the ambient, like the milieu he's moving through, feels very adolescent. And that's actually one of the qualities of the record I like the most. I like when this feels like someone looking around and saying something's wrong and that's not fair. And I like the less reasoned parts of it. I think that I am a lot less moved by the parts that are written with more apparent confidence.
What parts are that to you?
I mean, moving outside of Running Man, really. Like, I think that when Vince is diagnosing problems with the country, he's almost never wrong or off base. But sometimes I feel like I can work backward from the idea he's trying to communicate and feel him writing the couplet. And that's okay if you're Chuck D and you're literally genuflecting as you say it. But Vince's style, and some of this is not something he can change, some of this is the exact register his voice comes across in, like things that are just beyond any of our control. There is his style has always had to rely on more like slyness. And so Vince, when he's writing into an assured argument, it always feels I feel like I can see the writing more in a way that doesn't work for me as much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably how I'd put it.
You have reviewed some of his previous records, like the self-titled, which is like one of my favorite reviews from you, where you kind of talk about how you expect a lot of the music to sing more, and then it kind of just dies in a hot air almost, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like it kind of just like moves within like quicksand almost, you know? Whereas you want it to be more out in the open.
Yeah.
Do you
Now,
think Go ahead, my bad.
I was just going to say before you get to your question, a lot of people really disagreed with that review I wrote on the basis that they really enjoyed the record. But I think that I stand by my characterization, and I think that a lot of people who like the record would cite the same quality I'm citing. It does feel ephemeral and slippery, and that is not something that, for me, pairs particularly well with his writing and his voice. But I definitely, this is what I'm saying, like, he moved in a specific direction, starting with the self-titled, and I would I assume you would agree with me that the ranking of those three records starting then would be Ramona Park, Dark Times, self-titled, or would you have self-titled higher?
No, I would say that's exactly right. Ramona Park,
Okay,
Dark Time, self-titled. Yeah.
that's certainly how I feel about it. And Ramona Park is the one I would put in conversation with Summertime '06 and Big Fish for me.
I think so too. Yeah. When Sparks Fly feels like obviously like there's influence there, clearly, but it fits his voice very well in my opinion. It just fits his manner of his monotone manner extremely well. And I would like more of that. Obviously, I don't know. People were like, "Oh, you just want to make the same stuff." Like, obviously not, right? Like, I don't want an artist to just be stagnant. Like, it's like as a fan of hip hop, I obviously don't want that. But I also do think certain sounds and certain genres and styles do fit artists well. And I think sometimes artists can struggle when they're like overly concerned with, okay, I have to do something different because for whatever reason, right? Yachty thinks that people don't take him seriously as a real quote unquote artist. So okay, I have to do this rock album, which to me was like Poland was 10 times more explosive and experimental than whatever is on Let's Start Here.
Poland is the best thing he's ever made.
Ever. Will probably be the best thing he's ever made when it's all said and done.
I think it's kind of remarkable. But I would say that it's also unfair to say that someone who really likes his first two LPs wants Vince to make the same kind of music, because each of those albums, in addition to being very different from one another, contain a lot of different styles, especially Summertime '06. If someone said, man, this LP is not as good as Summertime '06, you can't say someone only wants one sound from Vince because
Right.
Summertime '06 has a bunch of different stuff on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like Vince in like permanent experiment mode. If anything, part of my reaction against the self-titled is I felt at times on the record at least, and it's a short record, and I would argue it doesn't feel as short as it is.
Yeah, that is so true. It does not feel as short as it is, but it's a very short record.
It
A
will
lot of these
feel
records
like,
that he's dropped are short
absolutely.
records, right?
And it will feel like you're stuck in a rut a little bit. I don't want him experimenting less. I actually want him experimenting more. But I like Vince moving between modes within an album. And part of this, again, is a gut level taste thing. The colors he's working in on Crybaby are not my thing per se, production wise. So people's mileage is obviously going to vary a lot on that.
Yeah,
But
and I think,
I kept waiting for a left turn or something. Yeah.
and I think in fairness, like taste, our personal taste is our personal taste. Like in fairness,
Yeah.
so if you like the record, like you have reasons to like the record. I don't think it's like a nonsense record. Right, like
No,
you know what I mean. I don't.
no.
Like
It's
Vince is a professional rapper. That guy is a professional rap artist, right? Like whenever a new Vince Staples is coming out, I take time to listen to it. Like he's a professional.
Oh yeah, it's like appointment listening for sure.
Yes,
We're having also, frankly, it feels really good to be having a long conversation about a new album by a rapper who is, 7, 8 albums into his career and is not an A-list superstar.
Yeah, and not a legacy act, right?
Because we have really, the last 15 years, really lost that. Once a guy is no longer plausibly like an up-and-coming star or made an avatar for a regional scene or a celebrity beyond music, there's not discussion about the 9th G Herbo album. There's not discussion about, you know what I mean? And so the fact that Vince's music does invite this level of engagement, I do think, this sounds like I'm damning with faint praise, I know that, but I do think that's an admirable thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm very impressed by that. And again, he was like, I'm going to make a record that has this musical idea and this thematic idea. And I don't always want people's work to be that straightforward, but it's cool to have that kind of ambition with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, I felt as well sometimes when I'm listening to him. I compared him in my blog to Earl Sweatshirt a little bit because obviously they came out at the same time, and they both have unique intellectual personalities. I think that Earl, if you can even imagine, has had even more of has more darkness next to him, just as much darkness next to him as Vince, even though Earl didn't grow up in the streets, quote unquote. But where I think Earl has reached into a different stratosphere to me, like I think Earl is making, or really from some rap songs on, but even past that, is making some of the best rap music you will hear a guy make. I think
Live Laugh Love is like a peerless album. I think it's
great.
It's like a miracle that exists.
Great record. And it is better than the music that he came out making. Now, the music that he came out making was very good especially for like a 16-year-old. It was like prodigious stuff. But it also was ultra technical, I felt. Always very ultra technical. Also always very English professor. Always very like I listened to a lot of Eminem growing up, right? Like I'm a student of hip hop in the very like glaring sense. Now it feels so much more raw and abstract but like piercing at the same time, which is what I think sometimes Vince is missing, that pierciveness, right? That's not really a word, but the way Earl pierces through a listener, I think is incredible. Like when you listen to Earl Sweatshirt, like you know him. I feel better than I know Vince when I listen to him. Earl's taking from Mike a little bit with like that type of underground muffled rap scene, right? Like he's taking from that. And I just find Arm& Hammer, right? Like I just find Earl as a contemporary artist to be much more interesting than Vince, who I think is doing a different thing, right? Like Vince doesn't have peers right now, and I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. I think that, well, first of all, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I do feel that maybe Earl has moved into territory where it's unfair to compare people to him because he's kind of so good.
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
Earl is kind of at the point where it's like, how do you drop Live, Laugh, Love and Utility in back-to-back years? How is that possible? Um, but the thing you bring up about Vince feeling as if he doesn't have peers is really interesting. He does not feel like he exists within a scene or lineage, or his music is particularly in conversation with other rap music of the time, which generally I don't mind because, um, again, he has always, but especially since self-titled, been writing into himself so much, into his own psyche. However, yeah, it doesn't feel like this sonic direction on Crybaby is getting any mileage out of friction with another rap ecosystem because it doesn't exist in another rap ecosystem. Um, so there's definitely something going on there. I don't know. I would be interested to know what Vince is actually listening to. I don't think you'd get a straight answer out of him, which is his right, but I would be curious. Whereas, you were talking about how Earl's, like the self-titled Earl tape, felt so studied. I think he's still a very studied, studious artist. He's just studying better artists now. Like, there's better things to take from other writers and other rappers than the imagery and syllable density of Eminem. And Earl obviously listens to a lot of Kaw and is like, oh, sometimes like an elementary seeming simile is a vehicle for emotional weight. He listens to a lot of Woods and is like, oh, paying attention to the syntax in how other people speak gives you a lot of style. Like, he's taking really interesting things because a lot of art is judgment, and Earl has great judgment. Whereas I think that the component parts of Vince's records feel less considered than someone like Earl. Like, I don't know when I hear like the guitar tone on a song on Crybaby, I don't I don't get the sense that it was scrutinized because it often does not feel anchored to the rest of the song. And, rappers have different degrees of interest in building a track with producers. Producers have different levels of interest in building a track with rappers. And I think Vince has been a good curator in a macro sense and micro sense throughout his career of production. This is one of the few albums, other than the fucking Kenny Beat stuff, just get that out of here from FM or whatever it's called. No Kenny Beats ever, no Kenneth Bloom ever. But this is one of the few Vince albums where the production for me just doesn't sit well. And it's not that I think it's a thematically incoherent choice to bring guitars in. I don't think the beats cohere that well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really that simple. And again, it's like a taste thing with you and I. Like I don't want to make it seem like it's anything personal against Vince. Like I find him actually an incredibly interesting. One of the best things I think you said is like it's great to be able to talk about an artist that isn't a legacy act and isn't a fucking 17-year-old, right? Like This guy is. at the prime of his career, right? I mean, he might be towards the end of that prime, but he is a, artist that people have been hearing for 10 years now. Being pretty popular for 10 years now. A guy that can be on Z-Way's show. And also,
that's the real barometer for fame in America.
Can you go on Z-Way's show? And
hey,
he can.
You want to talk about Obama's America?
But he felt like he does such a good job of not being that, like being the cool version of that. But he felt kind of seamless on her show.
Well, I think Vince is one of the smartest people I've met in any facet of entertainment. And one of his great gifts is like a mastery of tone, and he knows exactly how he reads in each situation. He knows how to. This has a negative connotation, but he knows how to manipulate situations to communicate what he wants to communicate. No, I think that Vince, there's a part of me, it's bad criticism to be prescriptive. I never want to say what I want from an artist because I want artists to surprise me. But sometimes I wish Vince's interests and Vince's tastes skewed so avant-garde. Because I know he had the show, which was successful at what it tried to do. By all means, unqualified win. But I wish he was sometimes a really bizarre, multidisciplinary artist in a really, truly bizarre,
like a Saul Williams
way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, where he's not between mediums, not just being between mediums, but what is Vince doing? Is this a bit? Is this not? Is this record rounding out a fictional universe from another record? I think Vince has what it takes to use every medium at a relatively famous person's disposal to confound expectations, to make interesting art. And I don't think this is a criticism. I suspect if Vince were here, he would say I'm right. Or if he was on a lie detector, maybe he'd say I'm right. I think Vince is a great musician who loves music, but I think he's more interested in getting to the core of what's happening psychologically with people in different sets of different sizes in the country right now. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a lot of different ways he's equipped to explore that. But the industry's a strange place.
Yeah. It is. It is. Yeah. So, okay. Let me ask you a pointed question. Do you think Vince has had the career that he could have had when you heard him for the first time?
Yeah, I do, because I actually think that this version of his career is more varied and probably longer.
Okay.
Than if he kept trying to remake the same thing. And I think that Vince was never going to make the kind of music that would make him an A-list star off of the music. And he's avoided repeating himself. So not every LP is to my exact taste. But I do think, again, it's sort of like when you go back through Baseball or Basketball Reference, adjusted for the era, a career of this length and breadth is kind of an insane achievement.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. You'll love this. I was watching Nick Day with my girlfriend, and she was like, "It's crazy that Fat Joe's rich. This rich that he could be courtside." And I was telling her, I was like, "Look, first of all, Joe is an underrated rapper in my opinion. If you look at Don.
Listen. I agree, but that's a real rabbit hole to go down when your girlfriend asks you a question in passing watching a game." I agree. But
No, well, well, like she's into rap. Like she really likes rap, and so like she loves hearing me kind of talk about like my musings, if you will, on it. And like I think Joe, I was like, first of all, Joe is a very underrated rapper, like regional star, but also what a lot of people don't get about Joe is like the late '90s records. Don Cardiega is a great record. The Crack Attack is
yeah.
incredible. Triplets, John Blaze, like these songs are like Misery Needs Company. Like these tracks are real hardcore New York rap records. And then you go with Jealous One, Still Envy. And that is What's Love, which is one of the biggest New York singles. And then you have Lean Back, which is a
Listen,
American.
Lean Back is massive, massive, massive.
That's a massive record.
I grew up in Minneapolis. What's Love was in regular rotation for like 8 years on the radio.
That is a massive record. That record is massive. Yeah, Lean Back is up there with In the Club. Like those two records are like that's like kind of up there.
Huge.
And so, and if I'm not mistaken, 50 actually said that he's jealous of Lean Back. If I'm not mistaken, there's an interview or a quote where 50 says, "Man, I really don't care about these other guys, but damn, I'm kind of jealous of Lean Back." Right? Like 50 wishes he made Lean Back. Like,
do you remember the Lean Back remix?
Yes.
When pilled out Eminem says, "You don't want no problem with Harlem."
that's literally the end of Eminem.
That's the end. Yeah.
That was the end of Eminem. So, like I was explaining, Joe had a long career, and when you become a legacy act in the way that he now is, along with Jada, you just get opportunities to make money.
Yeah.
You know, you just get those opportunities to make money. So courtside seat, like he can afford that now because he's had such a long career in the public eye. And Vince obviously is a different type of artist than Joe is. Like I'm not comparing the two, but Vince has now had a 10-year career in the spotlight. This is Crybaby's sixth or seventh studio album. So like I'm curious down the road what Vince becomes. Is he Pusha down the road, right? Pusha, I just saw Pusha at Gov Ball, and it was incredible how much people I felt, even at Gov Ball, like knew the words to Mama, I'm So Sorry, knew the words to Grinding,
yeah,
knew the words to Key Open Doors, knew the words to the new record. Like Push is a massive, massive may be the wrong term, but Push is a legacy act.
Well, he's a legacy act. He's a legacy act to some extent, but like you said, people know the words to the new Clips album.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they kind of Pusha like is kind of like played it exactly right to the point where he's sneakily one of the bigger rappers in the world.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Which is bizarre to me.
It's bizarre to think about, right? Like the same guy who made We Got It for Cheap, the same guy who made, Trill and Nightmares and Hello New World, like these avant-garde rap records, is one of the biggest artists right now. That guy could fill up a Pier 17 show, and everyone's like, "Fuck, that show was the best show, ever." Right?
I took my best friend to see Pusha a couple years, like on the It's Almost Dry tour. And we sat upstairs at the Novo in downtown LA. It was a big venue. And she, I think, remembered Grindin', but like, I gave her like a 40-second primer as we were walking in. And we walked out, and everyone, like, from her to people who had like original run Clips merch, were kind of in a daze. It was like, this is an unbelievable show. Like, Pusha is a professional. And I think that Vince has every bit of the ability to do that. I'm not sure what Vince is going to be interested in doing in 10 years. I suspect Vince would not be interested in having a show about rap.
Okay.
I don't like really know Vince personally. I'm based on my limited interactions with him, based on his interviews, based on everything. He's not someone like Joe who like wants to hear stories about a record someone made in 2004. So I don't know what Vince is gonna do. I think that Vince could do almost anything he wanted to, though. It would be a question of opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I think he's still young.
Yeah. Yeah. Still young, right?
What a
You
world.
know? Um, I do want to talk to you about Jay-Z quickly. Can we
Let's
do a
do it.
little can we do a little Jay-Z stuff? Okay. What
We
did you
can't do Jay Z without doing Drake to some extent.
That is true. That is true. And for the listeners out there, Paul and I disagree usually on Drake. Usually. Usually.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
I would okay, here's the short of the
Yeah.
short the short of the short on Iceman is this. The rapping on it is some of the more passionate writing we've seen out of him in a while. He is struggling, I think, technically.
Okay. Okay. Listen. 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 That's a low bar.
Sure, sure. Well,
Like when
well.
for when now 8 or whatever years ago when Pusha did Story of Adidon. You're Hiding a Child is one of the craziest drops to ever have in a diss song. But something that was overlooked because there were a dozen lines crazier is when Pusha just said, your music for the last few years has been angry and full of lies. It's like, yeah, no, that's
But,
actually the
but,
diagnosis.
but Two Birds, One Stone is an incredible rap diss, in my opinion.
It exists.
Two Birds, One Stone is like Cuddy didn't come back from Two Birds, One Stone.
Okay, Cuddy didn't come back from a lot of things. I'm not. We're not using Cuddy not coming back. That's like saying the speed bag looks tired. Yeah, that's what it's there for.
Cuddy, like, and I thought that the push stuff on Two Birds, One Stone is some of the best pure writing that he's done in terms of, disses, whether it's subliminal or direct or what have you. I
But
felt
Drake
that
outside of back to back, Drake doesn't understand rap beef. I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't, but he doesn't. And I think that last movement on Family
but you
Matters
don't
is
think?
really good.
Oh, it's great.
But he doesn't the metaphor I always use about rap beef is that it is boxing. If there's a knockout, it doesn't matter what the cards say. And Drake is always popping back in after X amount of time to get his little digs in, and it's like everyone left the arena. Like they're smoking outside. It's done.
The problem with Family Matters is it should just be that verse. It
The
should just be
the someone Kendrick just opened his mouth.
yes. It
Yeah,
should
yeah,
just
yeah. Which is
or
the
well,
best
actually,
part of the disc and the best musical idea he's had as a rapper in some time. That flow
yes.
is really good.
Although I do think the verse prior about Weekend, and Rocky is also like the Rocky lines are great, and then the Weekend stuff is also like that part is good, but the first half of Family Matters, like the first couple minutes of Family Matters, is not good, and then from that on, it's a very good diss record. I think that Iceman has a lot of that same passion. I also think that on Firm Friends, for example, on Iceman, the conductor beat, I think he struggles with the flow because I think he's getting older, first of all. Flow is never, I think, the greatest part of him as a rapper. Although I do always talk about Hell Yeah Fucking Right, which takes from Lil Wayne's Crying Out of Me remix, which he really pulls off in my opinion. So what you have is
I want to hear him do it live.
fair. But you're getting see now you're getting hip hop head Reddit though.
No,
Right?
no. I'm just saying. I'd be interested to see. That's all I'm saying.
I would be too. I would be too.
Reddit rap fans are like, oh, did you guys catch the Easter eggs in there? Like, shut the fuck up, man. Go watch Rick and Morty. Get out of my face. I'm just kidding. They love me on that, I think. Maybe.
In my opinion, Iceman has that. The flow is a little bit choppy though. Make Them Pay also very passionate rap record. Flow is a little bit choppy. I also think Jay is suffering from the same things in his Root Picnic freestyle. Flow's a little bit choppy. I think he's a little bit too demonstrative. I think
I saw you on Twitter saying he seems too like angry.
he seems too Tupac-like, in my opinion. And I think that is part of who Jay has become in this post. I want to say Magna Carta. Let's say post Magna Carta. I want to say post Magna Carta. From 444 on, he's become the emotionally acute guy, where he's no longer, I think, arrestingly patient and absurdly cocky and all these different things that we loved out of Jay from 96 to 01. He's now a little bit more plain spoken and out in the open about how he feels about certain things, right? Like Sean Corey Carter would have never been apologizing for cheating back in the day. And now
I really do think that 444 should have been called I Was Just Fucking Them Girls, I Was Gonna Get Right Back. That should have been the name of the album. I think that you're right about, I think what you're saying is fair about the, like, broader thrust of his post-Magna Carta work. Flow, trying to parse the flow of, like, an a cappella thing you're doing live where you want to make sure the lines get heard over the crowd. I don't know. Remains to be seen if he ever puts something on record again. But I actually kind of... I like petty, angry, ill-adjusted Jay. Like, I think that The Ruler's Back is probably the weakest song on the Blueprint. But, like...
Wow, interesting.
I don't know that that's even wow. I think that that's probably
Song Cry, I think, is like a very weak record. I actually don't like Song Cry.
That's interesting, because you don't think men should apologize for cheating.
Sure. But also...
Because cheating is having a moment.
Cheating is having a moment. No, I just think that the... I don't think the psychology of the song is that interesting. I think that... Yeah, I don't know if, and it's not as playful as I wish Jay was. Like, I think it's Jay trying to make, there was a era of Jay from 01 to 03, whereas I think he was internalizing a lot of the stuff that Nas fans were saying, which is that, oh, you're all jigga and bling bling this. And so, okay, I'm going to make deep records. So I'm talking about like Meet the Parents, which I don't love either. I'm talking Song Cry.
Listen, I went through a lot of conversations with people around the time it came out where they were like, Blueprint 2 is too long, it's bloated, there's good songs like Meet the Parents. And I was like, you're confusing serious with good. What I was going to say about Ruler's Back, though, is I love when he's just like, fucking with me, you gotta drop a mill. Like, I like when he's just petty and, like, that's beneath him, right? But, like, I like that. I like I'm about $1, what the fuck is 50 cents? Yeah. So when he's going out of Shino, I'm like, give it to me. That's great. I love that. Like, to me, and we don't need to get into fucking, I have a lot of thoughts about, like, the public discourse litigation of Jay as a billionaire, but I
mean, we can.
The dream to me is to become a billionaire and be like, I'm still kind of mad about an obscure rapper from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like, that's better than the alternative to me. And Jay often embodies the alternative. I don't need Jay to fucking, like, okay, I did Charles Holmes' Ringer podcast about the God Did verse that everyone loved. I kind of despise that verse.
It's a bad verse.
And there's stuff I hate on there, which is like, made $1 million off over the sink or whatever. I just made $1 million off a sink. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's the kind of money line that I'm actually hostile to. And I love rappers bragging about money with style. But, like, being like, yeah, this movie trailer has, like, a slowed down version of Run This Town. Fuck off. I don't care. And that's what's not interesting to me. Jay being like, Nicki Minaj's husband is a pedophile. give it to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
like sign me up. But
Fair.
I don't know that he'll put up. It does. I would forgive someone for being like, it seems like Jay's gearing up to drop an album. I don't think he is. I think he's going to do these concerts, and I would not be surprised if he does the Super Bowl. But it doesn't seem to me like there's music coming necessarily.
I don't think there has to be music coming for him to do a GQ interview in the Yankee Stadium shows either. I don't. Who knows? Who knows? I'm excited for. I hope to try to get into the Yankee Stadium show. I don't know. A lot of money.
Yeah.
I hope to maybe get in there. I think that hearing Reasonable Doubt live and hearing Blueprint live will be a magical experience for many people. Like,
It's really cool he's doing it at Yankee Stadium too.
yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, for the Blueprint record, like, to me, Song Cry worst song, but best song maybe on Blueprint might be Jigga That Nigga. Jigga That Nigga goes crazy.
I don't have it on that level.
It's
but
different.
I do. It's good though, and for a long time people would cite it as this like blemish on the record
Because
I
it
think
wasn't a
it's really
soul
good.
sample. Because it wasn't a soul sample. But the bars on that song are ridiculous. And he is styling all over it. Just braggadocio styling all over it.
Gucci flip flops. Yeah.
Yeah. 6 top model chicks. Who is this hot? Like, that shit goes crazy to me.
I mean, the thing I will not let go of on Blueprint is look, Ether is remarkable on so many levels. It is one of the best rap disses ever.
It's a comeback. It's a great comeback song, too. For his whole entire career. Yeah.
To the point where Ether is synonymous with devastating diss. It codifies the term stan, but the greatest endorsement of that song's power is that it perpetuates the ridiculous lie that Eminem killed Jay-Z on Renegade, which is an insane lie.
Oh, it is a racist lie. Like, it is a
both Jay
it is
verses
a
are better than both Eminem verses.
Ooh. So I think
The second Eminem verse is straight up bad.
yes, I agree. Totally agree. But
Yeah.
the first, Paul, is very, very, very good. The first is very good.
I don't care about it. I hate when he does that smug little shitty voice. Since I'm in a position to talk to these kids and they listen, no. And Jay's like, do not step to me, I'm awkward, a box lefty, and often my pops left me, and often my mama wasn't. Like, that's unreal.
Yeah. That no. That's what does he say? I had to hustle, but back for the wall, ashy knuckles, pocket
Ashy
full with a lot of
knuckles.
lead. Not a cent.
Not a cent.
Crazy.
Dude, he was so good.
I also
He was
think
so,
people
so
got
good.
mad. People did not like the fact that Jay was, I don't even want to say complaining, but people didn't like that Jay felt that the magazines weren't treating him right because Jay was a star. So people were like, yeah, but you're a star, so why do you care that the magazines don't see you as an intellectual? Even though but that's the weakest type of people who don't see Jay as intellectual. Like, even on something like Volume 1, he's an intellectual.
Well, I wonder if Jay, because it was clearly important to him to have this freedom, I wonder if Jay saw that perception of him as an impediment to him being taken seriously in like a business sense. Which definitely could be true, although what you would probably go back in time and tell him is that the white people aren't going to see you any differently no matter what. Realistically, you know? But yeah, I agree with that. And I also think that, like, despite, God, I'm being hard on Eminem today. Despite the fact that Eminem's beat for Moment of Clarity is truly awful, I do think what Jay's doing on it is really interesting, and I think the
Yes.
Talib Kweli stuff is a really fascinating window into Jay's psychology. Even though he's fucking wrong, he's way better than Kweli.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what are we talking about? You're saying if you had your way, instead of Volume 3, you'd make Talib Kweli records? I don't want that.
He is two times. He's a much better rapper than Quali. Much better rapper than Common. Like,
I don't get that.
it's a weird, yeah. But I think what he's saying is, if like the way he put it is wrong. He said if skills sold. What he should be saying is if content sold, I would be Quali.
Yeah.
Right? Like 444
Well,
is
because what confuses it is like you could read the line, if skills sold, truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Talib Kweli, where he's like playing and he's like, I'm so good, I could play into that perception if that's what it took to make money and earn respect. What muddles that reading is truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense. It's like, why would you want that? You're way better than him.
But I think he means content wise, which is what 444 kind of sort of is like
Yeah.
I'm a serious, family man who cares about black people and their standing in America, right? This country that enslaved them.
Dumbo.
Right. Dumbo. Story of OJ is the best song on that record.
Oh, by far. Like that story of OJ, everyone
Marcy
got
Me.
up in arms about the content. People love Marcy. People love Marcy Me. I think Marcy Me is good, but OJ is a return to the like 97 through 2000 really stop start conversational flow. Like I wish every album of Jay's had songs like OJ. I really, really like that style for him. Although YoungBoy kind of owns that beat now to me.
Yes. Yeah. Youngboy did him with that beat like Wayne did him on Show 'Em What You Got. But, I mean, I think... Yeah, I mean, I just find Jay now to be a person who felt that, like, the common sense line is not who he is. You know? Let me ask you a question. I've been thinking about Watch Your Throne lately. That album, I think, is... If someone were to ask me, what's your guilty pleasure hip-hop record? I would tell them Watch Your Throne. I love that record. And the reason why I love it is because both men on that record are actually... Like, people claim... Because I think it was the time of a recession, and it was the first Obama era... And the first Obama era is less, quote-unquote, happy than the second Obama term. And so I felt that a lot of people were calling it luxury rap. But if you actually listen to the record, both men seem very lonely with their riches. Kanye says, I'm all dressed up with... No, Jay says this. I'm all dressed up with nowhere to go. I'm in my suit, but I actually have nowhere to go. I'm not yet rich enough to work with the NFL. I'm still the drug dealer rapper. And I'm too rich to hang out with anyone but Kanye. Essentially.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, I have to hang out with my annoying little brother who does coke on black girls' skins because it looks like a zebra. Like, I love that Kanye line. Coke on a black girl's skin, man, striped like a zebra. I call that Jungle Fever. One of his best bars.
Can you imagine Spike listening to that? Which I do, by the way, on a click when he says, I know Spike Lee gonna kill me, but let me finish. I do like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But that record to me is actually a very interesting record in terms of both men's psychology. I think.
Yeah, I do too. I also think there's a loneliness to it. I think you're right about that. I think that I kind of take Murder to Excellence at face value too. I think that it's fraught when Kanye starts talking about murders, and you're like, oh, is this weird respectability politics rabbit hole? But like, I do think we have to make space for like, you can be really sad kids are dying in your city without it becoming pull up your pants, young man. Like, yeah, like these are tragedies. I mean, I understand that no one wants to extend Kanye the benefit of the doubt politically. Trust me, I get that. But like, I'm totally willing to take that song at face value. I even part of this is like, I mean, to call it what it is, like I'm like a white person writing about rap music. Like it's above my pay grade to critique this too steeply, but like I understand people are very cynical about Jay's Fred Hampton line on there.
They have a
But
right to be cynical about it. It's. Go ahead.
well, what I was gonna say is that like remember Jay was 26 before he saw any legal money of any consequence and had like a very perilous life up until then, and even after that still is like a black man in America, including being in, remember, a very public trial. And does that make you Fred Hampton? No, but i I have more patience for him working out emotions like that in public than I think we have collectively come to, given that his identity is now so tied to as well.
Normal people don't get into fights at the Kit Kat Club that end up with an arrest the next day. Like, he's not a normal person. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
what he's
right.
saying, in the Rooster Picnic freestyle is true. Like, don't make me on you. Like, I can do that
Yeah,
stuff. You know, like me and my
yeah.
friends can do stuff like that. You know, like me,
I love
Ty,
that the
like
unstabbing is this Rorschach test where Nas goes, "Your man stabbed Un and made you take the blame," because he thinks that's the most damning version of it. And then Cam goes, "And you stabbed Un over Charlie Baltimore."
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like you can choose your own adventure to diss Jay about the unstabbing.
And I think it's funny. Like I guess Watch the Throne to me is the precursor to 444 in a lot of ways. But what Jay's talking about on Watch the Throne, I actually like, I guess, better than the tone that he takes on 444, which is I know it all, right? Like, listen to me, I know
444 is a little bit
it's more.
guy spends 2 months in therapy and wants to tell you about it.
Yes,
You know, it's
and it's
like I figured
bootstrapping.
it out. Yeah, you're right because Jay's not like selling you the dream on Watch the Throne. He's like it kind of sucks.
Yeah, yeah. He's not
Yeah.
happy on Watch the Throne. No Church in the Wild verse. Shout out to Will. What's up to O? We're going domino. Only spot a few blacks the higher I go, and obviously people, I guess because whatever your political theory is, you disagree with that line, right? Like you're a Marxist, and you disagree with that line, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess what he's saying is I am making a lot of money, yet I still have to be in the room with these crackers. Or I'm
Well,
not
no,
yet.
no, yeah,
I'm not yet with these I'm not yet in the room with these crackers.
yeah. You can disagree with the implication. By the way, can you hear me? Is my connection okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear
Okay, okay. You could disagree with the implication that I think a lot of people infer, which is that Jay is saying it's admirable and he should be credited for going into those rooms. But I'm not positive that's what he means in 2012. And it is an unambiguous fact that those are white rooms. So it's not even like a theory. It's like, yeah, that's reality.
you. Yeah, yeah. I was talking to somebody in hip hop, and I was saying it was the GQ interview, and I was like, I just don't think maybe he understands that we're living in a different time when in regards to livelihood in America and capitalism, etc., and how that interferes with working class lives. And someone was like, "Sure, but I think his argument is it's better for me to be in these rooms than Jerry Jones, or
Yeah,
Donald Trump,
it's just
Donald, whomever."
Jay's, I guess, and you could argue that he's just being a realist about this, but the argument is against those rooms existing.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Yeah, and I don't. I find I've had a lot of conversations about this, including with Frazier, where I was just kind of like, I am when I hear a Jay record, I want to hear him working out his thoughts on this stuff. I don't want him to land where I want a person to land. I want to know how this has changed Jay's psychology. That's interesting to me. Like, with Jay's background and Jay's life story, you end up in the position he's in. Make a rap record from inside that. Don't reflect my politics back to me. I want to hear what you think.
yeah,
Because also, I mean, come on, like, no one who's like organizing politically in a serious way is taking their political cues from his records.
right.
So, you know what I mean? There's no danger. There's no danger that a kid's like, I'm gonna knock doors for a centrist Democrat primary candidate against the socialist because Jay says that being a billionaire is fun. That's not a real risk.
Right.
Whereas, like, this is a whole different rabbit hole, but, like, I do think Kanye got to the unique place where he had such cultural cachet that his mainstreaming of, like, overt Nazism was, like, one force among many in putting us in the public discourse moment we're in now. It's certainly not just him, but, like, I think we would be naive to not think that had some net negative impact on the world.
I want to ask you a follow up to that. Why do you think Kanye had more cultural cachet in terms of the American discourse than Jay could have?
Well, I mean, there's two answers to that. The first, to directly answer that, it's because I think that Kanye fandom, speaking broadly, is predicated on a personal parasocial relationship with Kanye and his work in a way that Jay fandom is not necessarily. The second is that I can go online and tweet slurs a lot more easily than I can make $400 million. So it's also just easier to emulate, and I do think that, like, hateful stuff like that spreads really quickly. And look, I mean, this is not unique to anti-Semitism and Jewish people in America or Jewish people worldwide. Like, times of economic strife breed racism. That's capitalism by design. Like, the whole idea is we get everyone divided against each other. So, like, especially in an era like this, that bullshit spreads far and wide. Whereas Jay is just like, my yacht's dirty. Like, you know what I mean?
Like... Yeah. You said something I thought that was great where I don't want to hear Jay reflect my politics. I want to hear Jay work these things out. So I want to ask you something. You got the Spike poster on your wall. I felt that Highest to Lowest worked best as a movie about Spike and Denzel trying to figure out how they exist in a world that looks down upon the things that both of those men had to do to get rich.
I think that's interesting. I think that like you putting it that way is more interesting to me than the movie was.
Okay.
And I love Spike, I love Denzel, and I love High and Low. And listen, there are a lot of problems with that movie. I'm sorry. Jeffrey Wright is not a 5%.
No, he's not.
He's just not.
He's bad.
Come
he's
on,
bad
man.
in the movie. Yeah,
come on, man. Jeffrey Wright's not a 5%.
He should have just had Method Man or one of these guys do it, right?
Jeffrey Wright is less convincing as a 5%er than he is as the caricature he plays in American Fiction, which is played for laughs. Like, the joke of that is the pantomiming of the subculture. Yeah. And he plays that better than he earnestly plays ex-con 5%er in Highest to Lowest.
You know who he is actually really good in Boardwalk Empire Season 4 as a Marcus Garvey light.
I watched the first season of that and thought it was great, and it was just like COVID and never got back to it. So I gotta dive back into that. I do want to give... We have to throw Denzel a bone here, though. The scene where Denzel goes into his son's room after the son's been found and is like, we're not necessarily going to pay the ransom. And they have that, like, where man and son are, you see, it's just reduced to, like, the animal politics, is really fascinating. That's really good stuff. And it's also, in addition to the added contours of race in America, the smart update that this makes to High and Low is in High and Low, they're little kids. And giving Denzel's kid a borderline adult psychology is a really good choice. They don't do enough with it.
I think about that movie a lot because there's aspects of it that I think are a little boring. But I also think that there are times where, like, wow, they really had something here. And I think not enough people talked about it. Where that scene, yes, is one of them. Another scene is the rapping scene with Rocky, which gets a little bit too Hamilton-like, but does something interesting where Rocky's like, I'm like this because motherfuckers like you got rich and didn't check for us after you got rich.
Right.
And I think that is the one time Spike is interrogating the idea of black capitalism and being like, okay, well, yes, maybe I didn't do enough. I got rich and I got these courtside tickets and I just wanted to do anything to keep these courtside tickets, and maybe I haven't done enough to interrogate myself and what that means. Same Dido with Denzel.
Yeah, and it is interesting too because, like, you know, I can sit here as like a white communist and be like, well, you know, all of these things are these evils, but you know, the reason it is like dialectically interesting is because it's like, well, if capitalism is the water we're all swimming in, then theoretically you have a responsibility to your community, whatever community means to you. Whether it is other black people, whether it is your neighbors, whether it is whoever, whether it's built around your like gender or sexual identity, like there is this thing of like, God, man, like if the knives are out for all of us, like what can we do for each other? And then the stakes come from people being like getting some money and being so terrified of losing it. Mm-hmm. And that's a real fear too. You know, I have less sympathy for it than I do for the other, but that's also a real fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jay should make a record about this, is the point. Like, not like, I could have bought a building and you should too.
Exactly. Right. Like, what is he afraid of? You know? Like, what is Jay afraid of, right? I think the best song, Alphonse wrote about it, the best song on the trilogies that Drake dropped is he's got a song where, oh my God, is it Princess? Where he kind of talks about, it's about a girl, but it's really about hip hop. And it's Drake saying, like, there's a few lines where he talks about, like, I hate the way you embarrass me, or I hate the way I do things to embarrass you, or or with have you. And it's like, that is Drake actually talking about him in hip hop.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it New Bestie?
woman as hip hop has been tortured to hell and back, obviously. But I think that yeah, and the reason I feel it's reasonable for us to have these conversations about like what we want Jay to rap about is because every indication we have from his like limited output is that like he is like very concerned with what the content will be. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he did that video interview for the New York Times 30 Greatest Living Songwriters package where he talked about and it's a very good interview, and he talks about in the actual writing and recording process, it's like he is someone who's 100% of the time cadence first. But in a more macro sense, in terms of like where he is going when he starts putting words to flows and when he starts like culling songs for an album, he is very clearly concerned with like what picture am I painting of this, and he hasn't got it exactly right in some time, but I do think he's a smart guy, and I he clearly does not feel pressure to drop music. So I am cautiously optimistic that if he puts out a new album, it will be because it feels like there's a reason to. Although, as I forget who pointed this out on Twitter, it seems like he can't drop an album because there's no new cell phone companies to drop an album with. Um, but I don't know, man. Maybe we resurrect Boost Mobile and get something cracking.
Yeah, we gotta do it. Like, I'll let you off on this thing. I'm gonna pivot quickly to sports. You're a Minnesota sports person. Give me quickly your Mount Rushmore Minnesota sport athletes. I love talking
Oh
Minnesota
my
sports
God.
because it's torture. It's torture, but you guys have had a lot of like really interesting stars, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'm going to be true to myself and like I I'm not going to put Harmon Killebrew on here for me. Like it's this is for me for
Yeah,
me
lifetime. Yeah, exactly.
for me we are talking Randy Moss and KG are there in the center of Mount Rushmore for sure, right? Moss, Garnett, without question. Um, I would say we're not going to put him there yet, but I do think Anthony Edwards is the kind of player in terms of both stature and personality who could get there. But for the other two, what I'm going to do a little bit of a biased thing, and I'm going to put Marion Gaborik on there because I think it's very hard to come over as an 18-year-old who does not speak the language and step on the ice for the a franchise that has never existed before and put it on your back for a decade. And I am biased. My dad went to small town Slovakia to scout him and draft him. So that's my guy. But I do think that he's up there. And the fourth, look, if we're going to do a twin from post Killebrew times, because like I love Rod Carew. I love Tony Oliva. I got to meet Tony Oliva. The default choice would be either from more modern than that, Kirby Puckett, who has one of the most consequential catches in World Series history, or Joe Mauer, born and raised in St. Paul, Hall of Famer as a twin. I am gonna go Byron Buxton.
I am gonna go Johan Santana, who I actually think should probably be in the Hall of Fame if you're judging Hall of Fame stuff now, which is less 300 wins and more were you dominant
So
as a pitcher.
I think if I could go to a fifth guy, I was just gonna say I would go Santana because Santana won Cy Youngs in 2 out of 3 years. I believe it was '04 and '06. And In '05, he not only was as good as '04 and '06, he was fucking better, but they gave it to Bartolo Colon because Bartolo Colon had a great September and finished with more wins. But for 3 years, Johan Santana was the best pitcher on the planet. But in the third year of that, in 2006, before the All-Star break, Santana was the second best pitcher in our rotation. Francisco Liriano was better, and everyone who was there will tell you this. And he hurt his elbow, and that's also the year Justin Morneau missed the end of the season with a concussion he got, sliding to second against Toronto. Terribly cursed time. But the reason I'm putting Buxton there, as opposed to Puckett, as opposed to Mauer, as opposed to even someone who accumulated great stats and was a great fielder like Torrey Hunter, is that I love guys who have, in music and in sports, who have these long, expansive careers, and I think durability and longevity is a skill. And I love them when they accumulate these stats and accumulate these records. That's beautiful to me. But part of what I love about sports, and part of what I love about rap, and jazz, and other things, but especially rap, is the ephemerality. And since we were talking about Spike, I'll bring him up again. My favorite monologue in any film ever is in He Got Game, when Denzel is explaining where the name Jesus comes from. And he talks about when he went to the Knicks, but he goes, they put the shackles on him, man. And it's like, if you saw him play on those park courts, you know. And Buxton, actually, touch wood, is really healthy right now and destroying the league. But Buxton is someone who plays at such a level that his body has trouble keeping up, but is the most purely talented outfielder, base runner, and one of the most purely talented power hitters I've ever seen. And it's just one of the most electric guys I've seen in any facet of sports or entertainment. That's man, Minnesota sports per capita, pretty great.
Yeah, it's like Moss is a generationally defining athlete in terms of
yes,
it just in terms of electricity, like Moss on the field. Like, you wanted him to get the ball every single time. No one else really mattered to me. Like, you look at the 07 Patriots.
And they had Chris Carter. They had Chris Carter, who's great, but it was not the same thing.
Yeah. Like, you wanted them to throw a jump ball to Moss every play to see if he could actually just catch it every play. There are Moss highlights that are...
In terms of the electricity on the field and the way he was scrutinized and racialized in the press, he's like the B-side to Allen Iverson.
Yes. Wow. Yes. That's not a comparison.
The Jack Buck or Joe Buck, like him talking about him mooning the Lambeau crowd, is like should be taught in sociology.
What's funny is you don't hear that comparison made enough, I think. Weirdly, you don't hear it made that much. Weirdly, right? Like, I'm not sure why, but weirdly, you don't hear it made as much. But they are A side, B side.
Absolutely,
very much so. Yeah. I mean, I think Moss is better at football than AI is at basketball. But
that's lofty, but maybe not wrong. It's different with a wideout, though, man. It's different. They have less. They can make the game go. They have less agency in ruining the game.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a tough thing to gauge, but Moss was incredible. I mean, the Vikings have had an incredible run of wideouts, but Moss is on another planet.
I also think Iverson, and we'll get off after this, but I don't think that people give Iverson enough credit in terms of him as a guard. If you put Iverson in an offense, no disrespect to Larry Brown, who could squeeze a win out of D3 players, but he was not a forward-thinking guy. Not a forward-thinking
Yeah.
guy. If you put Iverson in a Mike D'Antoni offense, in a Mike Brown currently offense, in a Steve Kerr offense, Allen Iverson would have done damage. Absolutely. Like, there is no world where Allen Iverson does not have better percentages if you put him in a forward-thinking coach's offense. Rick Adelman, I also think this about Kobe, for example, who I don't always love as a player. But Kobe, if he's not in again, no disrespect to Phil Jackson, who was a genius in terms of getting people to buy in. Like, that is a genius thing as a coach, to be able to get guys to buy in for an extended period of time is a difficult thing to do, and Phil Jackson did that for 20 fucking years. Like, with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, two of the most difficult people you will ever meet, he got these guys to struggle with Kobe, but he really got Michael to buy in on a thing that Michael, if you look at The Last Dance, Michael really wasn't into. Like, he wasn't into triangle offense.
Right.
But
right.
The triangle offense is not 7 seconds or less. So if you put a guy like Kobe in the James Harden role, he could do that too.
Yeah, I fully believe that. The last thing I have to give AI credit for, though, is look, as a college distance runner, I got to credit to AI. AI was an incredible 800 runner in high school. Everyone talks about him as a quarterback. For sure. But you got to look up his 800 times. That guy he could have done anything.
He is one of the greatest athletes we will ever see. In terms of just pure
is correct that Heat is perhaps the best movie ever made.
He said that?
His Players Tribune article takes like a whole 300 word aside to talk about how good Heat is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You
got to have him on the pod.
I would love to. Heat is. I mean, we talked about Heat. This was so much fun. We're going to have you on once every 4 or 5 months. Let's do this.
Anytime.
Yeah, let's absolutely do this. Like, playoffs start in baseball, and if the Twins make it, we'll do something around that or whatever.
I wouldn't worry about that this year, but we'll do.
Are you? But next big rap thing that comes out, whatever it is, we'll do that. Yeah, absolutely. Paul Thompson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.